I just saw some bullshit online about some video claiming that Frontend was dead. Obviously, this isn't true, but I just got so pissed off I had to address it. So I'm making a video right now to address every single point that this video claimed, and then I'm going to counter address all of it and then prove why even their sources aren't as accurate as he makes them out to be. First of all, let me address the bullshit that I heard, because all of it is not true, but I'm just going to list it out for you guys to understand. First point was that backend and full stack are the only positions left. He used this website called trueup.io as a source. He claimed that these are the only positions that are open for backend and full stack, 30,000 for backend, 30,000 for full stack, around that much. And then for frontend, all the way down here, only 2,800. Seems pretty bad for frontend. On top of that, they also claim that frontend is disappearing. You can see this row right here. This is something that I got off the same website. It says that this is for a senior front-end engineer, and then lists a bunch of back-end languages as well. And that wasn't bad enough. He also said that AI will take over the industry and replace all software engineers, specifically front-end engineers. Now, that was a load of bullshit, and on the surface, it does seem like a pretty good argument. However, if you actually do some, a little bit of common sense, and you think about it just a little clearly, it's not true. Let me just debunk all of that real quick for you guys so you don't have to be fear-mongered by other YouTubers. First of all, job titles have shifted. Let's get this out of the way because it's a pretty simple one that a lot of people don't realize. A lot of front-end developers are called software engineers nowadays. It's just something that's been happening recently. I don't know why, but it's a trend or something. On top of that, a lot of full-stack positions are really just front-end heavy work. For example, at my company, I do 90% front-end and 10% back-end for my full-stack position. That's just the nature of my job. Whereas my back-end engineer, who's dedicated back-end, he does back-end. That's the difference between me and him. I think on average, for full-stack positions, it's really about 80% front-end, 20% back-end on average. Now, here's the real key part of the argument that he just kind of neglected. This is how many websites exist on the internet. This is how many of them are active on approximation. Even if it's not 193 million exactly, that's a lot of websites that need to be maintained. And if you go back to the source that he cited earlier, which said there's only 2,800 front-end positions open, something isn't adding up. In fact, we can go one step further. If you add up all the positions open for full stack, backend, and front end, it still doesn't add up. It's something like 70,000 at most, which just doesn't make sense because if you think about it, how can 70,000 developers maintain nearly 200 million websites? Something isn't adding up there. The more logical approach is that the website or the source that he was using isn't accounting for like 99% of software jobs because it's only taking in like the top dev jobs out there, like maybe senior positions. In reality, a lot of positions are not listed. If you think about it like a butcher shop, for example, in your local town, it's not listing their site on something like TrueUp or it's not getting accounted for. To them, they're a very small company. They just need to get some developer to build a website for them. They don't care what's on the website. They don't even care how qualified developer is. It can be a really shit website. They just need something out there. So because of that, if you just use a little bit of your brain, you can realize that more likely than not, that data is not accounting for nearly all of the web dev jobs out there. So if you use your brain just a little bit, think about it, there's just no way that website with 70,000 developer jobs open can account for the almost 200 million dev jobs or websites that exist out there. Top of that, if it wasn't already obvious, companies need a front end. They don't often need a back end. Let's go back to our butcher shop, for example. The local guy who's running the butcher shop, he doesn't need an advanced back-end system to track all his meat orders and stuff, unless he's some like giant meat corporation. That's a different story. But for like every one giant meat corporation, there's probably 1,000 local small butchers. So all of these small companies, all these small businesses, they only need like just a basic, simple website to just show who they are, put some content out there, put some photos on there, and that's good for them. They don't need an advanced backend. So by nature, there's going to be a lot more front-end positions open for smaller companies than back-end positions. Oh, and one more thing that is worth noting. A lot of these job applications I see, but they have like just a ton of languages over here that just, I don't even know how you're going to do all of that in one position or job. A lot of these positions are just something that AI told them to put in. I don't know if you've been looking at recent LinkedIn or Indeed jobs. A lot of them are written by AI. It's pretty obvious by the way they're structured, the emojis. And obviously, if the local butcher shop is prompting AI to find them a developer and they don't know anything about coding, they're going to say, just get me a decent developer, a developer who knows what they're doing. AI is going to give them a comprehensive list of everything to look for. They're just going to paste that all in, and that's how you're going to get something like this. But the guy doesn't actually know or care about all of this stuff. He just needs a good developer, and he just follows AI blindly because he doesn't know better and puts something like this. This is a lot more common than you think it is. A lot of positions out there are going to advertise a ton of stuff, requirements, but then they're just going to need you to do something very basic, and it's completely overkill. That's the nature of a lot of these job applications. It's not actually as deep as you think it is. You don't need to master all this stuff. And by the way, this is something I've not seen on YouTube anywhere, something that no one ever seems to touch on. Survivorship bias is a very real thing in job positions. Hear me out. The job positions you see online right now, the ones that haven't been filled up yet, they have some ridiculous requirement. You have to have like 10 years in a language that's only existed for 7, something stupid like that. You're probably thinking, this is ridiculous. How is anyone supposed to fill this position? Well, the thing is, these are the positions that don't get filled. That's why you see them online and just existing there. The ones that are actually reasonable get filled pretty quickly. Those are the ones you don't see, and so you just assume that it's just really bad, and you just have to have some ridiculous requirements to get a job. It's not actually as bad as you think it is. There are plenty of jobs out there with reasonable requirements, and those are the ones getting filled up. Not the bullshit ones where they require you to have just an absurd amount of experience for like $8 and over. By the way, something else that was addressed in the video was that AI was going to replace front-end development because AI was really specialized in front-end. AI can replace back-end too. It's senior level development on everything. Does not mean it is a senior level developer. There's a lot more to a dev position than just writing code. Collaboration, testing, debugging, maintenance, updates, performance. On top of that, you also have to work with the client for revamping. You have to work with other developers. You have to have an overview from start to finish of the entire project. These are things that are like the other half of just writing code in a dev position that just no one talks about because for some reason we're all like tunnel vision. AI cannot do that. That's why it's not going to replace developers. Otherwise, it's good enough to replace seniors if we're just thinking about code. AI's code is solid, but it can't do a senior dev position just like that. Even if AI gets perfected in the next 10, 20 years, it just cannot replace developers because it can't do all the tasks that a developer does. Someone has to prompt AI to do something. I would think this is common sense, but I guess there's so much fear-mongering happening on YouTube right now. This is just accepted as a fact now. AI is not taking your jobs. You guys are fine. And by the way, something that I could probably mention, for your first job with a small company, you can just know front end. After that, you can specialize in front end and still have a little bit of back end knowledge. You could be a full stack developer with very basic back end knowledge and really good front end knowledge. Because once again said, a lot of full stack positions are just front end mostly and then a little bit of back end. But once you've mastered front end to quite a good degree, like mastering some of the back end languages like PHP or Node.js are really not that hard. Connecting APIs is really not that complicated. I like to think of PHP as like JavaScript of one level beneath JavaScript. It's just like one overarching level. And in JavaScript, you're manipulating a DOM. In PHP, you're just manipulating, I guess, a level below that. It's really not that complicated. You don't have to know that much. You don't have to only know front end and never touch back end. I'm just putting it out there in case you guys are worried. You don't have to be. It's not that hard to pick up some of these languages. In fact, I'd wager if you're good at what you're doing, you could probably learn both of these languages or just one of them or get very good at backend in like a week at most if you already have some decent front-end knowledge. I can go on for a long time. There's a lot of points I can make. Hopefully that is comprehensive enough though. If you guys want some actual useful advice from someone who actually knows what they're doing, isn't going to fearmonger you, I do have an online community for new web developers. You can consider it private mentorship where I help developers get a job. If you're interested in that, you can click the link in the description. You get some more information. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next video.